Alright, hello again to anyone watching these Kaijudo videos. Today I am here with the first match of the Kaijudo Eye of the Storm open format tournament that was ran on the Rangers Dojo Discord. So it was an 8-man event, and so it was just going to be a 3-man Swiss event. So the winner is going to be the person who goes 3-0. So again, this is the first round, and for the tournament I decided to play dragons. So the list is basically the same list with one change, cutting an Infernus for a twin cannon. The same list that I profiled in the first video back maybe several months ago on this channel. I had kind of debated a bunch of different decks going in, and I really couldn't come to a good decision. I was thinking about maybe playing Firelight Rush, or maybe Alex Blue, or even Mono Nature. There was a bunch of different decks I was weighing between, but last minute, just talking through things with my brother, I decided to just play dragons. So kind of last minute audible. I didn't really spend too much time actually on the list itself. Spent much more time again just trying to figure out and debate and kind of wish-wash between different archetypes that I could possibly play. So probably the wrong approach there. Would have been better to just maybe pick a deck from the onset and maybe give it a bit of a trial, maybe iron out the list a bit more. So that was probably the wrong approach, but at the same time, I felt pretty confident in a lot of the lists that I had going in, so I didn't really, it was more for me about picking the deck rather than doing that. But I expected a lot of aggro, so I went with the Oathsworn Calls, and part of it too is I just wanted to give Oathsworn Call a good shot. Despite this being the deck that I've had built for several months, I still haven't played a ton of games with it, so I don't have like tons of experience with the Oathsworn Call, so I wanted to give it another shot in this kind of tournament environment. The Core Isle as well goes alongside the package, and I just wanted another cheaper creature. Curves into Keeper of Laws, or it just gives me a cheaper play when I already have a bunch of 4-mana cards, and on top of that, all the 5-mana dragons can be 4-mana cards when you're playing with a bird. So just the extra cheap creature, especially alongside Oathsworn Call, I think it becomes better than Logo Scan, although Logo Scan would be better if you expected more mesmerized decks. But again, I expected a lot of aggro or a lot more aggressive strategies going into it, so that's why I decided to just still go with the Keeper of Law, or the Cyberlord Chorale. So not the greatest card by any means, kind of just a water mana for the most part. But again, I was considering maybe making some bigger changes and maybe going a little bit of a different direction with the deck, but at the same time, again, I was kind of crunch time last minute ironing out my list, so I made some changes and then kind of reversed a bunch of changes, and I ended up just back at the start, which was this standard or this older list that I've been playing for a while. So probably best to do that. This is kind of the list that I've been comfortable playing with for a little while, so that's what I decided to register. If you want a more detailed explanation of a lot of the card choices and such, there is that deck profile that I posted way back. So the opponent that I'm playing against in the first round is Loui, and he is actually from the German Duelmasters YouTube community and that YouTube channel. Both he and Darksign are played in this tournament, and they're both from that YouTube channel. And I had actually reached out to them and played in one of their Duelmasters tournaments recently, and I decided to see if they wanted to get involved with this Kaijudo tournament, because they had posted a few Kaijudo videos on their channel, and Loui he's been one of the subscribers I've had that has been commenting on my videos from way back in the early days of when I was posting, maybe 6 or 7 months ago almost. So he's been a really positive a positive person in my comment section and such. So I decided to reach out and see if they wanted to get involved. So they both wanted to, and ended up working out because they rounded out our tournament to 8 players, which was great to see. And Loui brought this Water Dark Fire mid-range deck. Not quite a control deck, I would say, just a lot more of a mid-range style. 43 cards, which I really like with the mesmerizes. I think this approach to Water Dark Fire is really nice. Compared to like 50 card control builds, those are a little more clunky. They don't see their good cards consistently enough. The card quality is not quite high enough, I think, to really sustain that kind of game plan, especially when you consider like the other control decks that you're facing up against. This deck, I think, is a little more refined and a little better at just playing the game it wants to play, which is that mid-range control game. Just again, like your key cards being like mesmerize is just, it's so important that you see that on turn 3 or at least early in the game. and just being that slim. I'd maybe like to see it hit 40 cards just to make it that much more likely, but as is, I think it's just a really nice slimmed down approach. Overlord Sargon being a great way to turn the corner or stabilize a board. Similar to almost how Major Owl can operate to just come down out of nowhere and just you use a creature to sort of be that sweeper effect, which I think is a really appealing thing in this game of Kaijudo where you have stuff like Laws and Cyber Scamp running around. So I do really like the Sargons here. But outside of that, plays a lot of the standard stuff like Cyberwalker, Chronax, Logo Scan, Infernus, Grudge Weavers, and such. Part of the problem with Chronax in this deck, I think Chronax is an amazing card to be like Fire Dark. It's just such a good answer in the metagame to evolution creatures and hexproof creatures and things like that. This card just always really overperforms. But one of the downsides to being a water deck is when you're just pairing it with guard blockers like Grudge Weaver, there's some dyssynergy there with like things like Reef Scout and Grudge Weaver compared to if you're playing a light deck and you just can throw down some skirmish blockers early in the game. Not the biggest deal because he's got stuff like Kaylee and Rusalka Fumes to play with the Chronax, so there's enough going right. But yeah, I do like this approach overall, so should be a good match. I think going in, I definitely felt like I was favored just because like I have the hard card quality with things like Finbar and Lyra in the mid game, and we're kind of two sort of mid-rangey decks. And I felt like just I have a lot more threats in my deck where he has a lot of answers that don't all line up against me. If I have like Keeper of Laws can be tough to answer. Just Finbar plus a board can be difficult. Lyra just kind of dominates the mid-rangey game. So I felt like I had maybe a little bit more threats, but at the same time, like he's still got a good game plan. And I think most people would just look at the decks and just see dragons and assume it's favored against a deck like Water Dark Fire, which is kind of traditionally maybe an underpowered archetype in Kaijudo. But one thing to note is, in my experience, one of the sneaky bad matchups or difficult matchups for dragons is those like kind of 40 card Mesmerize decks, just because Mesmerize can be a really brutal card for dragons because it picks apart the synergies, picks apart the dragons or the Nyx and all that gets your card advantage online. And then from that point, it kind of turns into a top deck war where, I mean, you do, like, this deck should top deck well with all of its threats, but at the same time, it's very mana hungry, and it can draw a lot of bricks. Like, the Piercing Judgments and Storm Sparks, those are almost like combo cards in the sense that they're there to really play with Herald and Infernus, but they can be kind of bricks in these, like, mid-rangey top deck wars. Then you have a bunch of these top-end dragons like Infernus and Andromeda, which are great cards, but it's really hard to get to 9 mana, and you have a bunch of these really top-end stuff. Even Sky Crusher can be kind of expensive when you're playing that top-deck game. So, and especially one of the big liabilities of my deck in this matchup is the whole Osworn Call package compared to maybe playing Logo Scans especially, which would help in this kind of matchup. So the 40 card consistent Mesmerize decks, those can be a difficult, in my experience, those have always been difficult. Like even looking at a deck like Light Dark Kalima, which I think is again a kind of underpowered strategy overall. Its matchup spread isn't the best, but it's a decent deck, and the redeeming thing about it is that it is like one of those 40 card Mesmerize decks. And just because of that alone, just Mesmerize and Aspire Puppet was like a great way to just win games against dragons. And I've always felt like it was a close matchup, and Dragons was one of Kalima's better matchups because of that play pattern. So that's going to be something we see here. So going in, I think I talked to a few people, and they felt like I was favored, but I was still kind of worried just because of the fact that, again, that consistent Mesmerize could be a really big problem for me to deal with. And it just turns into a top deck war, and he's got a little bit more card advantage tools with Logo Scan that he can draw in to hit these line drops and things like that. And he has a lot more removal tools to kind of survive along the way too. So it would be interesting to see how this plays out. So I guess we can jump into the first game at that point. Because when it turns into a top deck war after a Mesmerize, like I said, like maybe I should be favored just because I have like more threats and things like that. Finbar and Lyra can be really big deals, but if I don't draw those cards and I draw the brick half of my deck, then it can go really bad for me compared to his deck where he just draws a bunch of answers, which aren't always the best, but they're still decent cards. And then yeah, he has the card advantage to kind of draw out of it. So here I start with Oswan Call. Now maybe my game plan as well going in was to just try to play that mid-range game and just not get aggressive or anything like that. Just play towards the strength of my deck, which is the powerful top decks, and use those cards to win the game for me. So I'm not sure. Like in hindsight, I think like I don't think playing out the birds is like the maybe even the best idea. It might be better to just make sure they're land drops as opposed to these cards that just kind of reduce the game state, because like I play out my bird, I get mesmerized, and then he kills my bird, and now I'm like down even more resources. Whereas if I just put the bird in my mana zone, it deads his bone blades, and then I just get the mana from the bird rather than like trying to hope the bird lives to provide me extra mana for my dragon. So I think early in the match, I probably didn't do enough. I played a little bit of the matchup beforehand to get a feel for it, and I definitely did feel like I was favored, but I could just lose games to mesmerize plus removal. So I think in hindsight, like I think playing the birds here, especially with this hand, is probably a mistake. But maybe I didn't do enough game planning beforehand. But I think I started adjusting my play later into the match. But in this spot, I think running out the bird is probably a mistake. So yeah, he mesmerizes. You could take Skycrusher because it hits the fire mana. So it means like Herald is a worse draw. Kind of like maybe taking Finbar might be the more powerful card in the longer game. But it's kind of tough call. So here he has Fumes to take me off resources even further, or he has the Bone Blades to answer the Lux, both of which are good. So yeah, I think Bone Blades make sense here, just to kill the creature. And now, like, this is kind of going to plan. He had the Mesmerize to pick apart my synergies. I played into the Bone Blades by playing my Lux, which was, again, probably a mistake. Even though I need the creatures to translate into, like, a powerful Finbar turn. Yeah, drawing Oathsworn there also kind of sucks. Like, just doesn't really accomplish anything. Like, if that was the logo scans or extra Keeper of Laws that I could have been playing, that would have been a big deal. So here, draws Crystal Memory. The Fumes, not the best card. Like, it takes up lost resources, but it also doesn't really generate him card advantage at all. I'm not sure if he should prioritize that as opposed to just like the Crystal Memory. I want to keep the logo scan here just because he's going to need that card advantage if we're playing this game. Yeah, kind of a tough call for him. Opts to keep the Fumes, which definitely makes sense, but doesn't cast it, which also makes sense in this spot. He draws another Mesmerize, so he's got some discard tools. So here I play Herald. And here you're probably just going to Mesmerize, of course. And I mean, he could take the Andromeda, but I feel like it's probably better to take the Finbar in this position. Because he has like the Fumes that can come down later. And like I kind of understand like taking the Herald, like without an answer to Herald, the Andromeda's kind of threatening because it means like he just can't play out creatures. But at the same time, like the Finbar is going to be impactful now. Whereas like he can always pick out, like if he can answer the Herald, he can just pick off the Andromeda from my hand with this Fumes at some point if he wants to. So I have to decide, like I feel like I need to play the Finbar out just because of things like Fumes. But then I have the decision to attack, and he's going into his Sargon turns. I should say the deck lists were public for this event as well, so we both knew each other's lists card for card. So I decided, like if I get a draw, but if he has Sargon, he just kills my Herald. And then I would need to draw into something like Lyra to really accomplish anything. So this was like a spot where I probably need to attack to get something going and just hope he doesn't have Sargon. So I don't know if I agree with that, not attacking there in hindsight. I think I would prefer to have just attacked because he's already up resources and like I'm just not in the best spot. I need to keep drawing good cards from this position, and I think just I'd rather have me with like a card in hand and him with 4 than like me with no cards in hand and him with 3. Like I think that's just a better thing to happen. So he just gets to drop that down. I play the Nyx just so I can have that creature in play. And here he can Drill Storm, or he can put the Drill Storm in mana. I feel like just putting the Drill Storm in mana would be good. I mean, just playing towards Infernus makes a ton of sense. So I feel it's kind of it is a difficult call. Like if I just top deck a dragon, like if I just top deck a Lyra, I draw a card and now I have a big board state and the Infernus is kind of reduced. Like you can still play the Infernus. Obviously, he gets completely blown out if I draw a or if he draws a multi-civ. But like he's playing, like if I have like Lyra or Sky Crusher plus Nyx compared to his Infernus, I'm not even breaking that. Like I might break one shield, draw a card with the Nyx, and then I don't think he's like in an insanely disadvantaged position with the Infernus out, but it makes sense to just mitigate the board. It just feels like the problem though is like you're just kind of in the same position next turn, although maybe it gives me the chance to brick off. Like if I just brick off, then I don't know. I could see an argument both ways, but I kind of like just playing for the Infernus. So I play the Lux, and now like in this spot I feel like I have to make an attack, right? Like I was kind of respecting the Sargon, but it's not like absurdly clear that he has it. Like he probably wouldn't have, like if he did have it, he probably wouldn't have, maybe he wouldn't have Drill Storm just because then he can just drop the Sargon and attack over the Nyx anyways, or something like that. If it did attack, like it seems pretty clear that he's like playing towards an expensive card here. So I feel like I just kind of like if an Infernus comes down, like I'm just in no good shape, so I have to start attacking. So I choose to attack. And now, yeah, I break a shield. And I can choose to attack with the Finbar as well, which I think makes sense at this point. Like, I just kind of need to start getting more aggressive. It doesn't draw a card, which is kind of not great, but I feel like I kind of have to make that attack. Not confident though, but just like sitting back, and I'm like, it's not like 100% that he has Infernus, but it was like pretty clear to me at the time that he probably did. And now he just draws into the Sargon. I feel like you just drop Infernus here and kill the Finbar most likely. But he opts to go with Sargon instead. Which, like, the reasoning there makes sense, because it's like he's guaranteed to kill something this turn with either of Sargon and Infernus. But the difference is if I have something like Sargon's not guaranteed to kill something on the following turn, because if I just don't attack, like he's not guaranteed to kill something with it. So I can just kind of sit back, play another, like if I draw a dragon, I can sit back, play that dragon, and then pass, and then he's got this Sargon that doesn't get to kill anything. So that definitely makes sense. At the same time, like, I don't know, if I draw, hmm, yeah, like this leaves me the option to like draw something like a Finbar, at least put back the Sargon and make an attack and draw, and then force him to respend the mana. Whereas like I can't do that with Awakened. It's decent either way. Like this is also just a cheaper card, so if next turn he draws like a 3 mana creature, then he can still kill something with the Sargon. Like he can attack, banish like a Kaylee if he draws it. So now here, I forget what I do here, to be honest. I think it's just not a great position for me. I should probably just sit back. Like maybe it's not clear he has Awaken at this point, because maybe he would have played it the previous turn, but either one of those was a fine play, so I don't know if there's like a 100% read either way. But yeah, like an attack here just gets answered by any creature he plays. So maybe not the best thing to do, but I feel like I kind of need to get aggressive. I probably should have played the Kyo in mana though. And yeah, I choose to pass. Don't attack. And here, so it looks like he's gonna choose to logo scan and take me off the last card in hand, which I'm not sure I love that play. I just don't get not playing the Infernus. Like I get like maybe because I held the card in hand, like the Kyo in hand, he was pretty scared of it. Like it could be like a 9 mana dragon that I'm holding on to. But I feel like just slamming the Infernus there. Like if I draw, yeah, just kill a creature. Like if I draw Lyra and I lock this Sargon down, and then I get to just like attack with all my creatures into his shields, like that's gonna be really good for me. Whereas if he has Awaken in play, like he can just keep that. I have to Lyra that, and then the Sargon stays, and like he can just easily answer my board. So I feel like maybe the card in my hand is scary, so that makes sense. But like if I had something like a Lyra, I would have just played it. Or a Finbar, I probably would have played that too. And like Finbar just gets answered by Awaken. Like now, like Finbar on this turn or Lyra is just so good for me. Whereas like it's not that good if it's not as good if he played Awaken. So I feel like playing the Awaken there was probably better. But maybe he was thinking about something different, like some other card he could have drawn into, though. Not too sure. Here I draw Piercing, and this is like a spot where I think I make a mistake here too. Like at this point, like I'm still like I'm this whole game I've kind of been in a position where if I just top deck Lyra or Finbar, I'm in like a really good position to win the game. But every turn I've kind of just bricked on those. So I should probably keep being patient, right? Like I'm still like it's slipping further and further away. Like he's gonna drop an Awakened on me. He's gonna drop like a bunch of. He's gonna drop like something like a Chronax plus. Like he's gonna do something like that. Like drop a Chronax plus play Rusalka, or drop a like Bone Blades plus. Like he's gonna have like 2 creatures that can disrupt me, and then. So I felt like I was like at this point like just going into his next turn after he's logo scanned. Like I'm gonna be like like 20% to win or something low odds. So I go for this kind of like Hail Mary play that's kind of just bad. When in reality, like, I should just kind of hope his draws were bad, and then like that I can still top deck one of those Lyras or Finbars to get a good position. But instead, I just kind of go for this like Hail Mary play that just like takes me from 20% to win to like 0% to win. So I just kind of throw the game here where I don't know. I think in the moment, to be honest, like I didn't play this game particularly, like I didn't play this game super great. And I think in the moment I was kind of like, definitely my mental game wasn't great. Like I was kind of tilting that I had just like whiffed on Lyra's, which I think is like my best card in the matchup. Or one of them. Like, yeah. I just felt like maybe like I had these opportunities to get far ahead in the game, and maybe part of it was like I felt almost like, yeah, it was definitely one of those dumb things where it's like you're kind of feel entitled to win because you're like maybe have the edge in the matchup, or maybe you overestimate your edge in the matchup, and then you want things to go your way, but you like kind of brick off. But at the same time, like this is how the matchup plays out. So I think I was kind of like, I don't know, it was almost like going into the match I was definitely worried about my chances, and I kind of like manifested that on its own by just playing even worse because of it. So yeah, this play, like I just bounced the Sargon, tap the fumes, but then I feel like I have to tap the fumes because then like he just kills my Lyra like Lux. But like this play just doesn't make any sense. Like I should just sit back, hope he probably doesn't have anything, but at the same time, like I should also just like break all his shields. Like I don't know why I just like why am I hedging with the fumes there? Like I should probably just, I mean it makes sense because now you can't like attack over a creature for free with fumes and then banish off the fumes and then kill, like he clears my whole board if I don't kill the fumes when he just redrops Sargon. But he gets a Cryo Nucleus to do that anyways, so now I just lose to the Nucleus. But yeah, I think just like maybe sitting back, like I'm kind of an underdog in this game no matter what, but I should probably like have just decided to sit back, give me one more turn to like top deck a big card and have a chance, as opposed to just kind of like throwing away by just playing into the Sargon and throwing away my board state. Or at the very least, like if I do decide to make this play, I should have just like not killed the fumes and just tried to break all his shields. That way, like maybe I can get there with the last Oathworn call in my shields when he goes for game or something like that. Where, like by putting him to 0 shields or trying to put him to 0 shields, it at least gives me a shot with like a piercing to save me into creature plus jump jets, for example. Like just putting him to 0 shields might give me a better shot. So I think that was just kind of like a bad play. And again, I think I let my mental game slip, and I was just, yeah, not super proud of how I played this. And then, yeah, he gets to clear my board here, and at this point, like, I'm pretty much just dead in the water. Like, clears my whole board. And he's got Awaken coming down with 2 shields left. Top deck Keeper, but I forget why I kept the Keeper. Oh yeah, because it just dies to Sargon. I should probably play it and force him to attack. Like that's kind of dumb. Like he's got infinite answers to it, but keeping it in my hand doesn't really accomplish anything. Like either I just drop it in mana, or I play it and force him to maybe attack if he doesn't have another answer to it. Even though he's just going to drop Awaken and kill it and then pass. But just kind of, yeah, just basically in my mind I figured I already lost this game like 5 turns ago or 3 turns ago when I like just didn't draw the cards I needed to win. So yeah, I was just kind of, yeah, I didn't play this game particularly well. So Loui takes this first one again, like just off of the back of just like the turn 3 Mesmerize. Like I was mentioning before, like Mesmerize on turn 3 just disrupts the synergies. I think I misplayed by just playing the bird as well, so that cost me. Like just maybe not game planning. Like I had a decent game plan. Like I knew I wanted to draw out the game a little. I don't want to get aggressive. Like that's not really going to work against his deck. I just need to, like with Kaylee's to answer my birds and all that sort of stuff, like I just need to sit back and then just play the mid-range game. But in order to do that, you need to draw your Lyras and more Finbars, which I just wasn't really able to do. Like I drew the one Finbar that he chose not to Mesmerize. But outside of that, I just didn't really draw the mid-range cards I needed to compete. So in one hand, maybe luck wasn't in my favor, but on the other hand, like I just didn't give myself a chance by maybe approaching the matchup wrong by casting the Lux. And he had the Mesmerize to get everything going too. So game 2 we will watch as well. So I start with Piercing. So this time it's a little more defensible to go for this Nyx play, just to, because I have the dragon here that I can draw a card off of, but Loui once again has Mesmerize. So I drop Piercing. So yeah, without the fire card, like looking back, I think maybe I still hadn't adjusted my play, but I think playing the Nyx here is a mistake. Maybe. Well, I draw Lux now. With 2 birds, like I don't super mind it, but it's like because I have double bird, which can be much better. Because like just passing there seems kind of like Nyx, you almost have to risk. Like Lux is a little less defensible, but Nyx means like if he doesn't have Mesmerize, then I have like a good chance to draw the card to replace Nyx. So like I think Nyx is a lot more defensible than casting Lux. For sure. So I think this is like probably fine. But I don't think like if I untap and play this Lux, that's probably a mistake. So he Mesmerizes, probably going to take the Herald, or sorry, the Hyperspeed. Just doesn't give me the chance to draw and play a dragon. Uh-oh. Wow. So obviously I could play both, which seems kind of insane. Because like I'm not going to get aggressive with them. But it gives me the door to draw something like Lyra, regardless. Like if he... Yeah, I don't know if this is... Like I should just be patient and just like top decking and putting in mana. Because now like I can't even hit Finbar that... Like if I draw Finbar, it's not even going to come down for a while. But again, like the reward is like... Now I can top deck Lyra, play it, and I'm in a pretty good position to just like make an aggressive swing and just kill him in 2 turns. But I kind of need to top deck Lyra to do that. So it's like pretty high risk. And probably not something I need to do in this matchup. So yeah, I just don't think like I game plan properly. Sweet Crystal Memories. Interesting to see what he grabs. It would make sense to maybe you just get Sargon, because like Sargon just gives you that thing to play for in a couple turns to like stabilize against these birds. Maybe you just get a Bone Blades to deal with one. Like I could see that too. Could even see just grabbing Logo Scan to generate some card advantage, but at the same time, like it looks likely that I'm going to be attacking at some point to give him those extra cards anyways. Because like that's part of the problem with playing these Luxes is like you're kind of committing to that like turning the corner and attacking at some point, which maybe is right, maybe is wrong, I don't know. Tough call, I don't know exactly. I would guess like Sargon or maybe even like Drillstorm would probably be better to get than Bone Blades, just because like if I'd untap and play a Nyx or something like that. So probably either of those, but he could also just get, like he's already got the Blaze Helix to play towards, so maybe he doesn't need to get Sargon. Could also just get Mesmerize or Fumes, but like I'm probably going to be top decking whatever I play is going to go in mana or into play, so he does get Bone Blades. So like maybe Drillstorm was better, but because like I don't think he's really doing anything with the extra mana that it costs. And I do draw Nyx, which is kind of funny. So like yeah. It feels like Drill Storm would have been the better choice for that exact for that exact sequence, which is kind of funny. But I mean, maybe both his Drill Storms are in shields, so I don't know. So he draws Bone Blades. So yeah, like now that I've committed again, like Nyx is way better to commit to the board than these Luxes, and like yeah, like you just kind of have to commit. And like maybe it was dumb to do that because like with my own thought process, I kind of came to the conclusion that maybe like Drill Storm was the right card to take. And here, like again, I'm kind of just bricking. Like every turn, I've just like drawn another bird or Kios and piercings and Storm Spark. So like same as the first game, I just haven't seen a single Lyra. And if like I saw a Lyra at any point in this game, like I'm probably like a substantially far ahead because I have that super cheap double breaker that with Lux, double Lux to protect it. But and even now, like a Finbar would be amazing. And yeah, like I'm just like not seeing the I'm not seeing like this is a problem. Like you like I mentioned going into the match is like I get mesmerized and then it's a top deck war and like I have these really high quality cards like Finbar and Lyra to draw into that should give me the edge in the matchup overall. But if I don't draw them, I also have like a ton of bricks. So like I'm just like it's kind of poised to that what comes off of the top of the deck and I just haven't seen cards. And then part of the problem too is like I was mentioning early, I kind of committed myself even harder to this top deck war by playing those Luxes. But at the same time, I mean the Luxes have kind of demanded an answer from him and put him on low resources as well, but he's been able to just somehow like just keep hitting his land drops. Like logo scan a big part of that, like that little bit of card advantage. Basically playing out exactly how I expected the matchup go from the onset. So I think again, like my mental game was kind of bad in this matchup. Like I was kind of like for whatever reason, like I mean, it's just kind of ego thing. Like I was really invested in wanting to win, and I think I was expected to win in a lot. I felt like people would expect me to win when you look at the decks on paper and all that. So like, and but at the same time, like I knew that there was this like this could happen where I just get mesmerized and brick off, and then I just lose. And because that's like how the matchup goes. And it was just I was like realizing that exact thing that I could predicted was going to be the end of me, and it's just happening in the moment. So I was just kind of getting frustrated. So yeah, definitely not my proudest games here. But I think part of it is just like I kind of made my own grave by just like playing these flawed game plans, committing these birds. Like maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just kind of tripping balls with this kind of assessment in hindsight. But yeah. This time he slams Infernus, which dominates the board. I bottle, which is a nice draw. Bottle into Finbar, I believe, if I remember correctly. Which, of course, you can play under Infernus because it doesn't actually summon the creature. It just puts it into play. So there's a difference. Summon, like, specifically refers to like the act of like casting it from your hand. Bottle of Riches just puts it into the battle zone, similar to how like Eternal Haven works. So I get to return the Awaken and make an attack here, and now like maybe this is like a sequence that I've always kind of sequence breaking the double breaker first and drawing a card, and then but I think it makes more sense in this spot. I think this is a bad attack. I think it's correct. Like, okay, like in hindsight, I'm not 100% sure. In hindsight, like I want to say it's a bad attack because I hit Tornado Flame, which just kills the Herald. But I think it is right to just attack because like I'm not concerned in this position. Like the thing that I wasn't thinking about is like I'm not concerned with breaking the most amount of shields. What I'm concerned about the most about is guaranteeing as many draws as I can off of Finbar. So that means like breaking with Herald first gives me the higher likelihood to get to attack with both creatures. Because if I attack with Sky Crusher, it just gives like twice the likelihood that I hit a Shield Blast. And on top of that, Herald is much easier to kill with the Shield Blast, given that he's playing Tornado Flames in his deck, than it is Sky Crusher. So Like, if I attack with Herald Verse, the only thing he could have is, like, Cryonucleus or Terra Pit to stop the Skycrusher attack. And again, like, I'm not concerned. Like, if I was concerned with breaking as many shields as possible, like, of course I would attack with the Skycrusher first. Most likely, I guess. Maybe not. Like, that's a little more of a complicated question because, like, you have to do the math on, like, what the expected shield block, like, whatever. That's a more complicated question. And maybe the default is to attack with the double breaker first. But in this spot, I'm, like, most concerned with, I mean, it's kind of the same question, I guess, to be honest. Like, you're just as likely to draw 2 cards as you are break more shields, so maybe it is right just in general to attack with the Herald, but yeah. Like, I think that was, maybe, like, again, maybe it's just, like, bias. Like, he's only got 2 Tornado Flames in his deck that could kill the Herald, and I kind of got unlucky to break it on the first attack. But at the same time, like, I think I should probably just, like, I should be doing everything I can to maximize the draws. And it's better to do that with attacking Herald first. Because, yeah, I don't care. Like, it's less likely that I just, like, hit a Terra Pit or a Cryonucleus to stop this. I don't know. It's, like, a kind of complicated math question that I just, like, wasn't really interested in doing in the moment, so, but I definitely got punished. Like, whatever the right play was, I got the bad outcome, but probably a mistake, because now I only get, like, the 1 draw, and then he gets to play Herald and Infernus, or he gets to play Infernus and top deck. So it was definitely super rough that he had the Shield Blast regardless. Like, if he doesn't have it, he's like 1 shield lower, and I have 1 extra card in hand, which is just going to be a big deal. And I have, like, 1 extra creature in play, so, like, this turn I would be threatening lethal, for example. Like, if he doesn't have that, I would be threatening lethal with, like, 3 cards in hand. But hitting the Shield Blast was, like, a huge deal for him. So I do not want to hit this button. Yikey. So, unfortunately, we'll just move this off to the side here. So here we go. So he has Mesmerize. And now he's kind of stabilized here, which is unfortunate. Like, that Shield Blast was a big deal. Like, that was my 1 turn off the bottle. I got super lucky to hit Finbar, so can't really complain that he has a Shield Blast at that point, right? Like, I got lucky enough to do that. So I sit back again. Draws Blaze Helix, which is nice for him because he gets to just clear my guy. Could play Sargon, could play Kaylee. So he just decides not to play the Kaylee. Maybe bad, like, the Kaylee would be an extra attacker on the following turn to present lethal if he wanted to. So maybe a mistake there. Like, I get that you want to keep it in hand so you can just drop the Kaylee plus Sargon combo, but I don't really feel like there's not really, like, a downside to playing the Kaylee, like, outside of, like, something like Lyra coming down, but obviously Lyra would just target the Infernus if anything. So they're not too big on that. So he draws 2nd Infernus. So he's kind of running out of answers. So I'm able to kind of assemble a board here. And this is, like, another spot. If I just draw Lyra, like, if I just see one of my Lyras for at any point in either of these first 2 games, like, I feel like I was in such a good position, but I just haven't seen a single one. And he decides to drop Sargon plus Kaylee again. This time it makes sense. Like, you get to kill the creature. And I guess it doesn't make a difference over the first 2 turns because you probably wouldn't risk hitting a blast by attacking with Kaylee first and then making this Sargon attack anyways, so kind of irrelevant, but maybe you would. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't change lethal at that point, right? So he breaks Jump Jet's Lux, and he's got the decision to make another attack here. It kind of makes sense because like I'm going into an Andromeda turn, so if he gave me an Andromeda, like you would want to break all the 3 shields so like he can still kill me through an Andromeda next turn, for example. But I am an Oathsworn Call deck, so maybe it is a risky proposition. So he attacks. I have Oathsworn Call. Get the extra cards, and now I drop. To be honest, I was like so excited that or so like happy I drew this that I didn't really think too much about the thing I drop. I drop Lyra, and just freeze the Awakened, which makes sense. I could drop Lux because I can't actually cast it, but that doesn't make like maybe it's actually better if I'm going for game to just drop the Lux, and then next turn I can go like Lyra plus Jump Jets, and then I get a attack with the Lux, break a shield, and then go for Lyra, and then I beat Terrapit that way. So maybe that was better. To be honest, like that just seems better than my play. Like it's like the unintuitive play, or this is more defensive though, because he doesn't. And then I drop Andromeda, so that was lucky on my part. Like I just draw Andromeda, and now I'm kind of like pumped that I drew Andromeda. Because I think without the Andromeda, I think that was a mistake. Like I should just Oathsworn down the Lux, and then yeah, just go for game. Because like I can't stable. Like he could have a Sargon to win the game, like a second Sargon, which is kind of why I was concerned about that. Because like this, so like I have to weigh like going for game versus Sargon, and like I draw a lot. But this play gave me the Adore to top deck something like an Andromeda, which was lucky that I actually did. And I didn't even think about the play. If you think about it, like I could have just Herald jump jets, attacked over it and dropped the Andromeda in the same turn. So I like didn't even see that. Like I kind of sloppy again. Like I'm still kind of like upset, and I'm just playing sloppy. Like I could have done that, and I think it would be better to just like do that and break a couple shields, or maybe even try to break all of the shields. I might have difficulty against like Sargon plus like another creature, plus like he hits Cryonucleus. Like if he does have Cryonucleus, then I'm in a bad spot. But in this spot, like if he just draws and Terrapits my Andromeda, I don't have like an answer to this Infernus, and then like I have to go for game the next turn, but I haven't broken any shields. So I think this play was just kind of not perfect either. Like he could draw, like I already know he has a Kaylee, so even if he had something like Chronax, like he can just go Kaylee Chronax, kill this Andromeda, um, and then like not breaking any shields was kind of bad to that, because now I just lose. And like I didn't want to break shields because it's like what am I even playing around? Like his final Sargon plus like Cryonucleus and shields, which seems kind of sloppy. Like he's already got a nucleus down in mana, so he has one Cryonucleus and one Sargon, and that's what I was kind of respecting, which doesn't make any sense. So like just not playing well. Like I should have Herald jump jets the Herald, and then try to break all the shields, and have the Andromeda in play. Like I feel like that would be the best play, just to, because now like if he has any answer to this Andromeda, like I'm just gonna probably lose to this Awaken a couple turns from then, right? Like I would have to go for game with Herald jump jets, but then I lose to like any Shield Blast, or maybe not lose. Like maybe I'm exaggerating a bit. It's still gonna be a tight game, but I think this play was just suboptimal. But luckily for me, all he has is this Rusalka, so I kind of get almost rewarded for holding the jump jets, because now like if he wants to Rusalka my Andromeda, to protect his Awakened, I can just jump jets the Awaken, or jump jets the Andromeda and attack over the Awakened. So I'm gonna get kind of rewarded for, I think, just like I didn't even think about it. Like I was so out of it that I didn't even see like Herald jump jets, which is just super embarrassing. Like I didn't even see that as like being able to deal with it, because I didn't even factor in Sky Crusher. Like I was just really sloppy this game, so not my proudest match, to be honest. So he's kind of got to think it through. He could drop Awakened and then just let this one die, but he decides to protect it. And I feel like you would probably want to drop Kaylee too, but just to get that extra attacker under an Awe Strike. Maybe not, I have no idea, but here I draw. Yeah, I just drop it. Play jump jets. And then, so I get rewarded, but like not breaking any shields could have got punished by like a tear pit, and like breaking shields is just trying to respect like, I mean, it makes him more likely to find an answer to the Andromeda, for example. But like I would have just gone super wide. I would have had like 3 creatures in play, even if he does have the answer to Andromeda, and then like, yeah, I mean, I could have gone for game as well, but that's obviously risky. So now I break the shields, of course. So yeah, I don't think I played like, even though I got lucky with the Oathsworn call, I think it probably would have been better to just like make a play for game. I mean, I could play around like playing it Lux would be best to go for game. Maybe not playing Lux is better in the sense that like it gives me the chance to like I can clear his board anyways, but it's kind of the same. Like Lux, just dropping Lux would be probably better. And then yeah, so I win the game, but yeah, I think dropping Lux at the end there would have been a better play, just because yeah, I mean it makes it more likely to I go for game the following turn, and then like even if I don't want to go for game, I can just draw. If I don't draw something good like an Andromeda, I can just Lyra the. I mean, the thing is like I have to choose between Lyra and Andromeda at that point. But even if I do draw an Andromeda, I can just Andromeda jump chest the Andromeda, and then kill Awakened with that play, and then I can still like make a push for game in the same turn even. So like I think it would have played out way better. Like I thought about Lux for a minute. I actually did think about it, but I just like didn't really think it through well enough. And like I kind of almost just was like, or yeah, it just makes way more sense. Like you just drop the Lux, go for game against everything but like the one cryonucleus that he could have, and then on top of that, like if I do draw something like Andromeda, I can play the defensive play, or I can still even just play Lyra, and then if I want to, I can make the defensive play anyways. Just Lyra the Awakened, and then I can just Lyra the Awakened, and then from that point I can just I can hope he doesn't have Sargon for the win, because he only has one left, so I can kill the Sargon, Lyra the Awakened, and then just try to go for game maybe the following turn. So I could even do that. Like I could be defensive or go for game with just dropping Lux. And then if I do high roll and draw the Andromeda, like it's even better than the play I did draw, because I can just I can Andromeda drop jump jets it, kill the Awaken, and go for game in the same turn. So yeah, I think I just made a bad play. Yeah, but whatever. I got lucky to draw the Andromeda. Got lucky to have the Oathsworn call. So yeah, I think my mindset was just like not in the right place, and I wasn't thinking things through. But I got rewarded with good luck anyways. Like even if I kind of ran bad in the mid game, not drawing Lyras, I still got super lucky to hit Finbar off bottle, and then super lucky with the Oathsworn call and Andromeda top deck. So here, Loui once again has Mesmerize, so he's hit it all 3 games, which I think if you run the math is like 9% or something to have it all 3 games, but of course we're playing one game at a time, so in each game I think he's like 40 to 45%, depending on if he's going like first or second. But he's had it, which is like the most key card for him in the matchup. So here I decide to not play the Lux finally. I just don't want to get like super low resources, and on top of that, I want to protect the Keeper of Laws in my hand, and like, yeah, I don't really want to play these Luxes, and even if I do, I don't want to do it at the cost of putting Keeper of Laws and mana, and I don't want to just play Lux and mana to play Lux and then get my Keeper mesmerized, and then I have nothing, right? Like, I wanted to, yeah, I think I wanted to just play it slow. And this way, like if I draw something like a dead card like Piercing or Stormspark, I can even put that in mana and then maybe hold on to my Luxes, which are still going to be pretty good with these Heralds and Sky Crushers. So like they're with the Dragon Hand. Like the first game, my Luxes kind of sucked because I didn't have any early Dragons. I was just hoping for like a Finbar like 5 turns down the road or something garbage, but this game they're going to have a little more appeal with the hand I have. and to protect the Keeper of Laws if he doesn't have removal, to just go Lux into Keeper. So he mesmerizes and takes a Lux, but I think he'd probably just, like, it makes sense. But in this spot again, like, I felt like he was probably just trying to bait me into like if he has like a Bone Blades or something like that, or I felt like he was just going to, yeah, I felt like if I just, like, again, if I just play Keeper and mana, play Lux, and he just Bone Blades is my Lux, like, I just have nothing going for me, and I let him just reduce the game state a bunch. Um, but maybe I'm still advantaged because like he went on the play, so he's lower on cards, and on top of that, like, yeah, it just feels like that might be a good spot for me. Like, he's double mesmerized, reduced us a bunch, but I have more cards because I went second. So maybe he could consider going first or going second with this hand. Like, double mesmerized hands, you can consider going second just for these kind of game, especially in these kinds of matchups where you just reduce each other on cards and then you're just in a top deck war ahead on cards. So there's an argument for that, but once again, I decided not to play the Lux. And Loui draws Drillstorm, so he has Tornado Flame Drillstorm. Probably put down, most likely, the Drillstorm. Or Sargon makes sense too, even though he's already got one Sargon down, so maybe I would like to hold it, but yeah, here I think he should still take the Laws, but he decides to take Lux if I remember correctly. So not sure on that. I think I would like to take the Laws here, just because like it's gonna generate even more card advantage for me if I land it. So I top deck Piercing, get to put that in mana. So like my cards have like kind of traded off really well. Like the Luxes have traded off with his Mesmerizes, which I think is good because they're like not, like, I get to keep my more threatening cards. He top decks. He's got these removals in hand. And here I'm gonna play I'm just gonna play the Keeper of Laws, and I'm fine. Like, obviously I'd like it to survive, and he's probably got a Bone Blades or a Tornado Flames type effect in his hand. But if he does, like, he's just going lower on cards, and I'm going up on cards. So here, play the Keeper of Laws. Maybe it's better to sequence like Herald first, just because like he has less answers to it, so it's more likely, like, if he is sitting on Bone Blades, like, he just has to pass because like his only answer to it would be Tornado Flame, and then I get to untap and draw and play Keeper, and then his like Bone Blades is dead that way. So maybe a mistake. But I still am fine with how this played out. Like, I'm ahead, like, I'm up a bunch of cards, and I'm about even on mana now. Play the Herald. He draws Crystal Memory. So he's got Skull Shatter is like probably not gonna, like, it's gonna be like most likely just a 1-for-1 at this point. So he could he could do a couple things. Like, he could Skull Shatter, or sorry, he could Memory for either, like, I think he gets Mesmerized here, which makes a ton of sense. Like, he knows I have the Sky Crusher coming down next turn, but he's going on 0 cards, and I'm still up resources. So he could get Logo Scan even just to draw 2 cards and try to hit his land drops. He could get something like Absolute Incineration, which I was thinking he might get, just to give him that extra big spell so that he can like just answer the Sky Crusher. So maybe he was thinking of that, but he didn't have it in his deck. Because like he could just draw, untap, play his mana, and then like Incineration both my creatures. But he gets Mesmerized instead. So again, like, Incineration's a one of. Maybe it's in Shields. I could see that being a possibility. But yeah, he's just like kind of answering my cards, but it's still, I'm up resources, and like I draw another Herald. I could play it and just mana the Andromeda, to be honest, because Andromeda kind of requires a ton of investment because it requires like top decking and playing a bunch of mana. So maybe incorrect to do that. Like, I probably should just like mana the Andromeda And then, because now it like dies to a fumes too, like if he wants to play the fumes, which lets him reduce the board state. Like maybe it's better to just play the Andromeda in mana and then just cast a second Herald and build up a bigger board presence. But here I draw Sky Crusher, so now I get to build up my board even more, and he's still top decking. Draws Nucleus, which is reasonable, and he probably holds it going into my Herald. Guess we'll see. So I draw, Nyx, play it, which is going to be really good. That's a great draw for me because it gives me threatens a card advantage. Here he draws Bone Blades, which is good for him, but of course he's still kind of just like falling further behind. And this is kind of like how the matchup should ideally play out, where it's just like a top deck war and then Dragons is kind of ahead, but maybe we've seen so far that that's not really the case. Like maybe everyone's assumption that Dragons is better in these matchups, like it is just kind of, it's kind of a 50-50 where I either draw my good cards or I don't. Here I draw Piercing. And I make this play, which makes sense, I guess. Maybe it's not 100 like required, but the Piercing is kind of just going to be a mana anyways, and this way like I get to drop the Andromeda, which is nice just because now I have, rather than like a 9 mana dragon sitting in my hand, I have a 7 mana dragon sitting in my hand, so it just lets me develop my board state over the next couple turns better. So here he plays Grudge Weaver. Now I draw Lyra, so now I have like a bunch of threats. So with the Lyra, like I feel pretty good, even if he draws and plays something like Awaken. Oops. Oop. Bit sloppy. So I just decide to start attacking now with this board state. Maybe dumb? I don't know. No. Don't know what happened there. So he has that was like kind of the same mistake I made earlier, where maybe it's worse, but I think this was better because like I'm not concerned. Like I'm more concerned with protecting my Andromeda. So like if I hit something like a Terra Pit, I'd rather like force him to pit like the Andromeda or Awaken or Sky Crusher, at which point like I can then attack with the Herald still. So I kind of like that. Even though like again like he has a Herald, so he's kind of been lucky where every time I go in for shields like the first couple times like I hit a blast, but of course I've had my own share of luck. But here just probably gonna develop my board, Lyra the Grudge Weaver, and then I get to make an attack with the Andromeda, or it's not the Andromeda, sorry, the Andromeda was Nucleus, so I just go to make attack. I think I keep flipping it over because for some reason I'm used to all of a sudden attacking on Octagon as opposed to Cockatrice. But yeah, I think I just went to attack and I forgot that this one was Cryonucleus, not the Sky Crusher for whatever reason. And then I remember, and then, or maybe I just tapped the wrong, I think I tapped the wrong one and then realized halfway through, and then now the board looks really sloppy. So I go to attack with the Sky Crusher. So he has Incineration, which is a good card for him. And it wasn't shields like I kind of thought from earlier. So maybe I should have had that read. Like, if honestly, if I was like a next level player, like you could probably even assume that. Like, it's kind of tough to assume because it's like it is kind of tough to assume like what your opponent's like thinking when they crystal memory. But like the thought process that I came to of like Absolute Incineration maybe being the best card to search off of memory as opposed to Mesmerize, like maybe should lead me to believe that he does have the Mesmerize in his shields, or that he does have the Incineration in my shields, and I should be considering when I make these attacks, so that I know like I'm like 66% or whatever, or like really likely to break that Incineration that turn when I go to attack. So maybe I should be considering that more and like have just waited and not attack that turn. So that would be like kind of like a next level sequence that I could have considered had I been smarter. but in the moment it's kind of tough because like you're at that point you're like making a bunch of decisions based on like what they search for memory, and like maybe that's incorrect because like at that point like maybe I just like completely misjudged my opponent's thought process, or maybe even mesmerize is the best card to search there even with absolute incineration in mind. So maybe a tough call to make, but that could have been a thought process that would have even upped my chances more to win. And here, yeah, he's just dead. So I ended up getting there. That was kind of the game like you would expect dragons to win, where like mesmerize reduces all the card state or all the board state. I think I did a much better job actually with a proper game plan, just holding on to the Luxes, not being too hasty to commit them to the board. I think maybe Loui made some errors in targeting the Luxes as opposed to the Keeper of Laws. But at the same time, it is kind of tough call to make because he had the removal to answer the Lux, which is part of the equation there. Like he has Drill Storm, he has Tornado Flame to kill the Lux. So maybe he should target like the bigger threats out of my hand instead, and then just do what he did the first two games, which was kind of strand me with these birds and no payoff. And then he can just kill the birds, and now like I'm really low on resources. But at the same time, like he just didn't see, like he still saw the mesmerizes, but he didn't see the logo scan to pair with it to get up on cards. And on top of that, like not targeting the Keeper of Laws with mesmerize let me land it and let me get even further ahead on cards because he was forced to remove it with the Tornado Flame. So I got the +1, and on top of that, I was going second. So maybe Loui could have considered going second this game even to just put himself up that extra card and me down a card. That would have been pretty relevant, especially when you open on double mesmerize. Like that's something you can think about, is choosing to go second, because you can just mesmerize like the Keeper of Laws, and then the next turn you can mesmerize. Like yeah, I think that could have been worth considering. But overall, yeah, I wasn't super happy with how I played the matchup, especially in the first two games. I got really lucky to win even after being really sloppy in the second game. And I think Loui played pretty well, played a bit better than I did. Maybe maybe the second game there was a little bit of room to navigate better, or maybe, but at the same time, like the second game, his draws just weren't quite as good. And then I mean, he had mesmerize every game, which is exactly what he needed. He had timely shield blasts to like stop some of my Finbar attacks and halt some of my aggression when he needed to. But yeah, overall, like a really close match and kind of what you would expect, like between a mesmerized deck versus dragons. Like that shows kind of the issues with the matchup, is like it really does come down to the top of the deck a lot of the time. And this game, I mean, the deciding game, I just had the better top decks. I finally drew my boy Lyra, which is the most important card, I would say. Like it just, yeah, finally drew that guy. So things went my way in the final game for sure. So I was lucky to come away with the win in this matchup. It was definitely a really good match between myself and Loui. And as always, this has been a long video. I hope everyone watching enjoyed some of the thought process and insight and stuff like that. And look out for the remaining matches of the tournament in the future. It is still going on, so I will post them sort of as I have time after they're played. But as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.